Man, you need to buy yourself a gun. What? Gun? What? Like a handgun. For personal protection. If somebody tries to mug you. What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. Gun? Yeah, gun.
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Check for the cops in riot gear. Gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta drag them through the
It's
streets.
Tuesday. We are live. This is PrimerTime on UCY.tv. My name is Michael.
My name is Nicholas, and it is another wonderful day to be a firearms owner.
You know it is, and I really don't got nothing, no kind of like a little snappy thing tonight because I'm kind of disappointed in the world. But we do have some good news. We are being simulcast on Real Liberty Media and WorldTruth.org, thanks to Vince Season. So hello to everybody out there in Radio Land, and hope you enjoy the show and do what the song says and buy a gun.
That is if you can, and if you can't buy a gun, trade for a gun, and that's what I did this day.
Hey, so what's up with that?
So
What you ended up with?
yeah, so on previous shows I talked about picking up a 1952 Colombian Mauser chambered in .30-06. Shot it at the range a couple times. Was pretty pleased with it, but it would be the number 3 .30-06 in the shed, so it is on the chopping block of things to trade for. And I have a colleague at work who has quite a few 22s, but he did not have anything large enough to take deer with, and he had been a frequent borrower of some of my rifles, and he had a Smith & Wesson M&P 15 22 that he had and not ever shot. And he came to me at work probably about a week ago and said, hey, I remember at one point you were wanting to trade rifles. I was thinking about it, and at the time I didn't think I could part with it. And, now after figuring out that during hunting season I need something quite a bit bigger to take a deer, I'm kind of interested now. So, we worked out some details, and lo and behold, today I am the new owner of an M&P 1522, about 200 rounds of ammo, 2 magazines, and a nifty Sig Sauer hard case.
That's pretty nice. The case is actually kind of a nifty deal. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it really is.
Yes.
So let's talk about this Smith & Wesson M&P 15. It's a aluminum frame or a polymer frame?
Yeah, so this is the M&P 1522. So that folks don't get confused. This is a 22 caliber AR style rimfire rifle. This is the same profile as a regular AR-15. The only major differences is, number one, is the caliber and what it's chambered in, and that two, the rail, the upper receiver, and the lower receiver, and the stock are all made of polymer to include the internal fire control mechanism. So your hammer, your trigger springs, all that, everything is polymer on this. So it reduces the weight significantly. The barrel is
What would you say the difference in weight with an unloaded magazine is between your service rifle or one of your personal AR-15?
I would say that this is probably a good 2 to 3 pounds lighter.
Okay, all right.
So there's
So it's
significant difference in unloaded weight. Even more so when you consider loaded ammunition in the magazines will be, significantly less. The cool thing about this is that
the magazines are a polymer construction. Is that right?
yes, they are. They're a polymer construction, 25 round capable, and they do have a rudimentary window, which is basically a cutout that the follower is guided through and then rests on springs. But as the springs are compressed, you can see how many rounds are loaded in it.
Okay, so with this little window and the little slider that's attached to the follower, can you actually pull that down and drop rounds in, or do you have to actually squeeze them into the top?
Well, you can pull it down yourself manually, and what I'm attempting to do right now. And you can just start dropping rounds in, and then obviously the tension.
Okay, that's a lot nicer than some of the let's just say, for example, the Ruger magazine, like for example the VX-25 or some of the older Ramline magazines. You actually had to like physically squeeze the bullets in, and that's a nifty little feature right there, especially for its intended use, which is with a bunch of lead down range.
Right, and the good thing about this, yeah, the good thing about this is number one, it is a 22 long rifle, so being able to shoot it in a semi-automatic configuration. Not that the 22 has a ton of recoil to begin with, but anything that operates on semi-automatic, function is going to divert some of the gas that would normally in a bolt-action rifle be fully utilized, to project the round down range, and then you'll have the recoil going back into you. Anything that has to do with semi-automatic function is going to redirect some of that gas to cycle the next round. So, this is what I was looking at, was an opportunity for me to have something that's an AR platform that I can go ahead and use to teach my kids how to shoot and to really not fear the evil black rifle, but also to be able to have fun to shoot something that's economical and get them familiar with the internal mechanisms, the breakdown, and all the same principles that are come into play when you operate a full size 5.56 or other chambering of a AR series rifle.
Now let me ask you. So this has basically all the same controls, everything as an AR-15 or an M4. Does this have a forward assist?
No. See, and that's one of the interesting things about this. You have no forward assist and no ejection port or dust cover. You do have the front and rear takedown pins, so you can actually you can go ahead and press the takedown pins out and then remove the bolt and the charging handle. Those are polymer as well. But there's no forward assist to make sure that the round gets chambered, and that's probably more from a safety standpoint, is that the 22s
because I don't believe you could use you couldn't really slam that rimfire forward.
Yeah, you really wouldn't want to do that and risk a negligent discharge.
That would be so this rifle kind of is not sports capable without some sort of dummy forward assist. Is that correct?
Well, it's not that it's not sports capable, because all sports is it's called immediate action. So the immediate action on this would be to just pull the charging handle back to the rear, eject whatever shell is in there, and then go ahead and let go of the charging handle, and it'll load a new round. So that would be your immediate action. You're just cutting out two of the steps. The other side of the coin is that it's the same format. So anybody who's familiar with an AR series rifle is going to feel right at home looking at it. Visually, it's identical to a normal AR series rifle. Internally, it's nearly the same, lower configuration with the trigger group, and then there's some differences to the upper receivers working.
So this comes apart just like a regular AR-15.
Yeah,
you don't need some sort of special.
No. You have You have the front and rear takedown pins, which will allow you to pivot the upper receiver from the lower receiver. You can pull the charging handle out, and that'll carry the bolt carrier, for lack of a better term, out. And then internally down in the lower parts, you have the same fire control group that you would have on a regular AR series rifle. Like I said, the interesting thing is that this comes with two 25-round proprietary magazines. So, like I said, I've got two Smith & Wesson branded magazines here with it. The sights are, I would say that they are customizable. Right now, what sits on it is what I would say is like first generation M4 Picatinny rail type removable sights. So, you have like the A-frame style A2 front sight post, and then the day-night flip-up rear sight post with elevation and windage. And then in addition to that, they are, you can remove them if you say you want to go to something like the Magpul backup sights or Diamond Head or whatever it is that Daniel
Or one of those $39 Academy laser sight.
I'll even go you better, $16.99 Sportsman's Guide.
The Sportsman's Guide.
So
how many stars did that rate?
It 4.8 out of 5.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about this is, like I said, the upper receiver has the quad rail extension that covers the barrel, and I would say it's about a 9-inch quad rail. That is polymer, but it is in the Picatinny format. So any of your different things that you want to put on it, you can customize this to your heart's content. You can remove the pistol grip, and you can go with the Magpul MOE series or whatever other series, the MIAD or whatever they call it.
This is the perfect platform to go ahead and start plastering $20 and $50 bills all over.
Yeah, if you wanted to, some people decide that they don't like the M4 style, collapsible.
How much is the magazine? That's really kind of important.
Say that again. I didn't catch you.
How much would the magazine for this deal be?
The magazines, from what I'm seeing online, are anywhere between $15 to $20 per.
I think that's probably a lot better than starting to change up the look. I think buy many magazines and many boxes of bullets and make many packs.
Well, and that's the interesting thing you bring that up, because in certain localities, that's considered a high cap magazine, and you may be limited to that. And I did happen to see that in some areas they are marketing 7 and 10 round magazines for folks that, because of whatever legislators have passed in their districts, laws against carrying a certain number of rounds.
That's just
it's un-American, to say the least.
Well, it's just ignorance. I mean,
yeah. I would dare say it's racist because this rifle is black.
It's a little bit of that Black Rifles Matter. But if we take a look at, let's say a standard NATO magazine versus some aftermarket company who makes a larger than 30 round magazine, we start running into a lot of design function problems, and even the best of them, which would be the Beta Mag, which is a 100 round dual drum. They think they come in somewhere north of $250.
Yeah, see again, you're too rich for my blood, because you can pick up the South Korean 5.56 drum magazines at 100 rounds, probably for significantly less than that.
I would dare say that's 100% accurate. But if we take a look at, say, let's just throw out a recent event that struck fear into the hearts of the nation and all that noise. The Aurora incident.
For a minute, I thought you were going to talk about the Uber driver.
Yeah, that boy. Isn't that one interesting? But he used a Beta Mag on his AR-15, and it jammed. And I think he got 4 rounds out. He wasn't familiar with the weapon, and he ditched that and went to the shotgun.
Yeah, well, I mean,
And
that's one of the things that we preach about is, not necessarily for folks who want to go out and commit violent crime, but for anybody that's going to have a
if you're going to go
legitimate
out and commit
purpose.
violent crime, turn us off right now.
Yeah, we don't need that kind of help. So the other side of the coin is, we just briefly alluded to the Uber driver, from Kalamazoo, Michigan. It's interesting that this individual had zero prior incidents, no criminal record to speak of, had a background check conducted, and had passed, and still
Well,
was
and he had a background check conducted to become an Uber driver. Too,
correct.
also.
Yeah. So as far as Uber is concerned, this individual was legitimate and had nothing stopping him from working for them as a independent contracted driver. That's not going to stop the calls for Uber to change their hiring practices or their background screenings or anything like that. But the fact remains is that individuals, when they decide that they're just going to do bad things, it doesn't matter what kind of
Well,
laws
and
or
I'll tell you,
limits that you put on something. They're going to do bad stuff.
yeah, there's really this case is very, very strange. And tell you what, I was listening to CNN earlier today, and I caught a little bit of an interview that they had with a guy who had been one of the fares, because this guy in the middle of a shooting spree picked people up and like dropped them off at destinations. Like, I think he did 3 different trips, and this guy was one of his passengers, and he said that he was driving normally, and he got a phone call, said that he couldn't talk because he had a fare in the vehicle. But as soon as he dropped him off, he'd call the guy back, and as soon as he hung up, he said that the guy started driving really erratically and very, 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 very scary driving. And he got out of the car and I guess just ran. But he said that the man had remained completely normal. He didn't appear agitated or anything. He just started driving like a maniac.
Yes, that
And
said that the driver claimed that he wasn't the shooter, but that he was just tired.
I'm telling you, did you ever see that movie Telephone?
No, I don't watch
Oh
movies,
man,
man.
it's an old movie. It's an old Charles Bronson movie. Back when the Soviets were the bad guys, No, it's different for bad guys, Soviets.
Yeah.
But
Well, they're still bad guys. They're just not Soviets. They're new Russians.
yeah, whatever. It's all the same, right? They called like a sleeper agent and activated him. He'd go out and do something. Guy, regular life, regular job, blah blah blah, whatever. And got a phone call and triggered his, his memory chip or whatever, and Manchurian candidated. And so
Yeah.
it's just kind of interesting. I thought it was kind of odd.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it just brings up the point that no matter how much you legislate against firearms or the commission of a violent crime using a firearm, people who have no other reason than they want to commit a crime are still going to do it. So that's
Well, not only
interesting.
that, they're always gonna look for some place to place the blame other than the person who does it.
Yeah, they're gonna have a tendency to blame the object of use and not the person who committed the crime.
And we've got an episode of that right now going on in court. Bushmaster is being sued, and they are currently petitioning to have their name dropped from the lawsuit. And
Yeah, are we talking about the Sandy Hook lawsuit?
that's right.
I
Some
believe
family members.
Remington was named in the suit as well.
Well, Remington and Freedom Group. Freedom Group is the parent organization, and then Remington Bot is the company that does all the acquisition. So Remington bought Bushmaster, and so I guess all 3 of them are named. So they're trying to be cleared from this lawsuit because, well, number one, the object, the rifle in question, was stolen from its murdered owner.
Yeah, so the murder occurred first.
Right.
The individual decided that his mother no longer needed to breathe. So, I'm pretty sure there's a law against murder somewhere.
Right.
Not to
And
mention the fact that he
it should be-
unlawfully acquired the weapon from her. So that would be a theft, or as what we like to say, theft by taking. And then, so that those are two major felonious crimes. Uh, I'm pretty sure that
the
individual
point,
was no longer eligible to own a firearm.
in the point of the lawsuit, it really is on shaky ground. They're saying that there's a loophole that they can exploit because the shooter chose this rifle in particular because of its capability to hold many bullets. That a certain attractive feature of this item made the killer use this.
Well,
And
see,
if you
and
were to
this is
extrapolate that to
interesting.
another one, you know, why would a guy drink really good 6% beer versus 3.2 beer?
Yeah.
Why would a guy buy a Ferrari that can do 180 miles an hour versus a used Geo Metro
Well,
3-cylinder?
here's the way I look at it is that this is what I'm assuming is a Bloomberg or every town for gun safety / mayors
One of
against
them.
illegal guns
It's
/ moms
woman
demand action funded lawsuit, correct?
and one of their just lackey attorneys
Right,
who's
right. Probably,
probably just a little bit more than an ambulance chaser, who is probably going to stick his family with a lot of legal bills.
yeah. So that aside, you consider the source. Number one, and then number two, you take a look at the legal grounds at which they're pursuing this case. It's very, very, very fragile logic that they're using. Um, here's the deal. The company is going to turn around and say, number one, this was a legally acquired firearm from the purchaser. Number two, there was no direct transaction between the manufacturer or the retailer and the individual who used the weapon in a crime. So, when the individual commits the crime, it doesn't matter, second or third order effects from where he got the weapon, although seems to be the logic being used. The problem that the argument is going to fall on is that the statute or the legal loophole that they're trying to exploit, it probably won't stand up to scrutiny. So I would expect this lawsuit to be thrown out. This is another ham-fisted attempt to bring the gun control thing back into the media. We've had a couple shootings in the last couple of days. Whether it's
Well, and then there's another reason why I kind of think that this lawsuit is going to be thrown out because it's going to bring up a lot of questions, and there's still a lot of questions about Sandy. And
well, yeah, definitely. So, you know, besides the fact that the kid is autistic, antisocial, doesn't go outside of his basement or wherever he's been living.
weighs about like 110 pounds.
Yeah, and that's pretty interesting in itself. Number one, number two, probably the time the only guy's ever gotten to do any kind of shooting was with his mother. Because she was the one that was legally registered to own those. And again, this is Connecticut, so she had to have everything registered and duly authorized for her to even be in possession of that. So, it leaves a lot of questions. But what I'm trying,
And it just the kid's proficiency. I mean,
yeah, and this is what I'm getting at.
shot,
I'm
24 people, and it's 3 to 8 bullets per victim is like what the
we have police in this country that can't put 3 to 8 bullets in a crime suspect without hitting 74 bullets in innocent bystanders. So there's a level of proficiency with this young one. The force must have been strong within.
Really, really. I mean, there's a lot of inconsistencies, and I think that this type of lawsuit would bring those inconsistencies out.
If it were to go to trial, if it were to go to trial, and I think that if under serious scrutiny by a credible legal scholar or an attorney who knows his shit, as they say, I think that this will get thrown out. But the fact remains is that there's a large population of sympathizers who realistically, for lack of a better term, they're uneducated people who fear what they don't understand. And part of what they don't understand is the ability or the right of the people to defend themselves. So they're going to say, oh, the shooter chose this firearm because of the ability. Well, number one, that's a supposition because no one knows exactly why this kid did it because nobody questioned him. He was dead. So this is a very shaky legal argument. And again, I'm not a lawyer.
Well, it's an argument based on feelings and
Well, there you go.
every possible,
It's an emotional
every
argument,
possible
not based
lawyer
in
trick.
rations or
And
rationality, I
it's
should say. Uh,
it's a lawyer trick, man.
yeah, and not only is it a lawyer trick, like I said, it's being funded. It's coming through from a well-known group of organizations whose sole purpose it is to keep the fear of gun control in the media. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I'm going to say on that.
It's kind of like moving to other directions. In California, we've got some kind of like almost revolutionary gun control going on. They'd like to institute videotaping of all firearms transactions to prevent, the dreaded straw purchase.
Yeah,
And
and here's the
they
thing with
combine
that.
that with limiting the number of gun stores or firearms retailers with, limited on the number of population in your area.
Yeah,
So,
what part of it shall not be infringed? Do folks not understand?
I believe that doesn't apply in California.
No, because it is the People's Republic of California. And it's interesting having lived in that that wasteland of a state. You're more likely to find the average person having to fill out a voter application form in 17 different languages than they would be able to fill out the 4473 to actually purchase a firearm.
Right. And I mean, I've seen how, just how the DMV works in California makes me wonder how.
Oh, don't even
I can
get
see
me
why they
started.
have they have a waiting period because people would, yeah, flip out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it took me. There is a it's a one week waiting period on all firearms purchases in the state, and yeah, it doesn't surprise me that some lawmaker wants to videotape everything so that they can say, we've got you on film purchasing the rifle for this express purpose of committing this mass crime. You know what? They should make sure that they put the
And what it would be we got you on purpose on film buying this rifle for the purpose of committing this crime of home defense.
yeah. Well, the other side of the case is that they should be making sure that they're videotaping the ATF agents who create the situations to do the straw purchases, or the ones who enable the straw purchase sales by telling the proprietor of the gun shops, "Don't worry, we're following this guy. You can go ahead and sell to him." So
Right. Right.
it's a very slippery slope that they're trying to do. Um, the way I look at it is, for our listeners out in California, I feel for you. There's a reason why California suffers the most natural disasters. It's because the place sucks. That's God's way of saying leave.
It's something like that. And the slippery slope argument is really kind of poignant right now. We're in the midst of, the presidential election turmoil, and the candidates on the Democratic side, not that I'm buying into the two-party bullshit, but the candidates in the most likely candidate on the Democratic side, and I think the one who's going to win, so bend over and take it, America, is going to be Hillary Clinton, and she's embraced the Australian style gun control, which was a mandatory buyback, which in itself is a misnomer because they didn't buy them from the government, so the government stopped buying them back.
The government's
But
just seizing them,
right, it was there
which
was
which is also contrary to the Constitution, because the Constitution states that for the seizure of property, you must be justly compensated. And yeah, okay. How can you justly
right.
compensate me for something that I have no desire with which to sell?
Well, and not only that, but something that you cannot replace
Yeah. Well, that, that
because
that sounds like the eminent domain argument. And on the other side of the ball, Donald Trump is very, very good at using the eminent domain statutes to further his own gains.
right. And you know what? We'll just save the economy by building several walls.
Yep.
We'll have a series of walls.
At least Mexico will pay for those.
Some of them before they don't pay for it, and we have to repossess the wall. Um, but going into this Australia style gun control, if we do have any listeners in Australia and you feel like coming on air, we'd love to have you discuss Australian gun control. And I find it to be a fascinating subject, and basically in the way it was pulled off, but in the 10, 15 years down the road from when it happened, the effects that it has on their society now, and we've got a story that is probably the height of ridiculousness. Australia has banned the import of several Nerf guns, the new line of the high-powered Nerf. That's right, the Nerf, like the sponge dart,
the foam,
toy.
the high density foam.
It's not even high-density foam, dude. It's like high-density foam is the stuff inside of a motorcycle helmet. This stuff is like foam. This is squishy. It's not high-density, squishy. Got a little rubber tip on it. You lick it and it'll stick to the window. And they banned the import of these because they're too much like a firearm. And there's no possible way you can convert that to fire anything more than one round of the non-existent ammunition in Australia. So this is just beyond idiocy. And it plays out throughout their media. We linked a story there that's from what is it? AU.com.
Yeah, news.
SMA, Sydney Morning.
Yeah, they have that, and it's also coming from the news.com from Australia.
And it's the story out of the Sydney Morning Herald is really kind of just blatant propaganda, and it's how the American gun culture is. They're unable to communicate or understand how the American gun culture thrives. Now, this is really a country that's 15 years removed from having their firearms, and really painting everybody to be wacko, crazy men. And the story the picture at the very front is three guys holding SKS and an AR-15 and some sort of bolt-action rifle, probably some sort of Mosin Nagant or something like that. And, wearing tactical vests, or not even tactical vests, but they're like load-bearing vests carrying ammunition. And they're not models by any means. And,
Yeah.
It's a lot of bits of propaganda all spun together. And basically it's, we just can't relate to those Americans because they're just not common sense like we are.
Well, it says that surprisingly hard to argue with. So
surprisingly hard to argue.
I can see that going two ways. Either hard to argue with because they agree with us, or hard to argue with us because they don't understand our American English.
I don't want to really insult anybody from Australia, but I just find that the mindset that's being pushed by their media is pretty goddamn insane. I think it's just on the verge of nuts. It's really hysteria, like defined.
Yeah. Well, speaking of legislatures and gun control, here in Virginia, the state legislature has passed the open carry or the concealed carry reciprocity revision that overrides the Attorney General's decision to rescind reciprocity. Governor Terry McAuliffe is set to sign the bills that have passed and should do it here by the end of the week. Probably will do it on Friday, at some time in the afternoon, and then his press office will release the fact that the governor signed it sometime after he's already either tanking back on the Hillary Clinton Kool-Aid or probably out doing something nefarious.
Well, in Texas gun news, we've got our open carry law for, and I've actually Now seen a guy with an open carry holster, but not with a firearm in it yet. But we've also got the Concealed Carry in Schools Act in the universities.
Yeah,
And
I've seen a couple of pictures. Some folks upset at the University of Texas in Austin.
they're very, very upset. They're very upset.
Well,
And
that's what helps keep Austin weird, as they like to say.
yeah, there's always the weirdness, and really, it's a lot of projection on the people who are against its part. But we're looking at a lot of the private institutions are not who are exempt from the concealed carry on campus laws are opting out of that, and this is going to bring up some interesting arguments, I think, in the event of something happening, which could happen at a gun-free zone, and that's where it does happen, and especially in a state like Texas, that's where it's going to happen, is at a gun-free zone.
Well, the interesting thing is that when it comes to gun-free zones, bulk of the crime doesn't necessarily happen there, and it doesn't necessarily get initiated by folks that you would think that would do it. Take a look at what happened at the Twin Peaks restaurant out there in Waco. One would say that the Waco police and the county sheriff's department initiated that fight, and tended to inflict most of the casualties on those biker groups. So, take a look at that.
I think if you were to, remove the badge from that situation, and that was another group doing that, they would call that meditated murder. They were pre-positioned. They had planned this for months, and they had a definite goal. There's some interesting stuff coming out of Waco. It's still, it's still a great big legal mess, and probably one of the more corrupt counties in Texas, McLennan County. And I'm not afraid to say that by any means. The magistrate who issued all the whatever it was, the 185 arrest warrants that turned into 170 when all the undercovers got released, he was cleared of any wrongdoing in the way he issued those warrants, and the county is actually now seeking a $250,000 emergency bailout from the feds to pay for everything, for the ammunition, the time, overtime, cameras, everything that they did there. So, to me, it's corrupt and it stinks, and especially when they started asking for the money on it now.
Yeah. So that's one of those interesting things. I think that when you look at the political winds that are out there, I want to say that for right now, I think gun control is on the back burner. It's not typically a big issue right now outside of the Democratic, their caucuses and their primaries right now. It hasn't been very high on the list of candidate topics at any of the Republican, primaries and debates. So I think that this is an issue right now that is really fallen by the wayside. It'll come up again during the run to November. But I think that, one of the things is that as far as the candidates go, you don't really know what the front runner on the Republican side stands for, and you do know that on the Democrat side.
All we know is that he won some goddamn walls.
Yeah. So on the Democrat side, with that being part of the party's platform is to enact the strict forms of gun control, you don't really have to wonder where that side is going to go. So the funny thing is that we've had quite a few shootings, whether it was this Uber driver who went apeshit, or there was a shooting, I believe it was in Phoenix with the two schoolgirls. It was the lovers' quarrel gone bad. There's plenty of opportunity out there for
these are the shootings. Wait up. These are the shootings that get the big mainstream attention. We're not mentioning the 300 shootings in Chicago.
Oh, no, because those are black. And black lives only matter when people are being shot by white cops.
Or by anybody who's not black is really what it is.
Yeah.
So I
never mind the fact that we have a a Bronze Star recipient from the United States Marine Corps from the state of California in Washington, D.C., get attacked and assaulted and robbed by three black individuals who accosted him trying to figure out if he was a supporter of their Black Lives Movement. And when he just ignored them as he was sitting in a restaurant and trying to eat his food, they decided to start calling him a racist and beat him down and, knock him out with a concussion, and basically ended up having to go get treated for head injury and trauma. Here's the thing. You can have your desire to believe you're maligned or your race is mistreated and that you're owed reparations. Got it. You know what? At some point or another, everybody in this country, with the exception of the very elite white male or white female for Hillary, you've had your day in the mud. There's been plenty of times, just like when Carlos Mencia, who's a comic from El Salvador, who decided to say
he's a comic from Los Angeles.
Yeah, whatever. So when he decided to say, hey, at 9/11, that's when all the blacks and the Mexicans got together and said, oh, your turn, Ahmed. You're on the bottom of the totem pole now.
That's I think that's kind of accurate.
It is pretty accurate. And
that was but that had been a long time coming though. And
long time coming. I mean, the point of the matter is this: is that at some point in this country's history, almost every ethnicity or nationality as an immigrant to this country has had their day of getting ragged on. So for black folks, got it. A long time, performing slavery. Guess what? They were sold into slavery by somebody, and for the bulk of that, happens to be other African tribes.
Right.
So that's the inconvenient truth. And the Black Lives Matter movement is 20, 30 years removed from the Jesse Jackson shakedown mentality of what he did to Toyota. This is
still plenty of shakedown.
Yeah,
because if you look, I mean, Al Sharpton got a show on MSNBC, and it's not because he's like a great host. I mean, for Christ's sakes, both you and I are better hosts than he is.
Well, we're also twice the size he is.
Well, he used to be twice the size of both of us.
Well, yeah, but he also used to have twice the number of velour leisure suits as we do too.
I also think he used to have twice the amount of. He had the
he had the gut surgery and the gastric bypass.
I think he had the one where they actually cut out like 90% of the gut.
Ugh.
He looked like he got the.
That's called Crohn's disease.
Well, no, it's like an inflicted Crohn's disease.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
Al Sharpton, MSNBC, it's not gonna. It's like you said, it's not really going to become a great big issue again until the run up to November, and then once Hillary takes the reign, it's on. It's on.
Yeah, this is one of those things that I brought up to you early, and we keep kind of going back and forth. It is the run up to the presidential election, so politics will be a big part of it. I kind of look forward to the October surprises here, and my bet is on the Justice Department finally doing the right thing and issuing a federal indictment for Hillary Clinton. Because why do that now when Bernie Sanders, while mathematically small chance, could still pull an upset and dethrone her? Why waste that until she's free and clear as the nominee for the Democratic Party, and then go ahead and drop that on her just as a way to say, fuck you, Bill Clinton, here you go.
I honest to God, I don't think anything's going to happen. I don't think there's going to be November surprise. If she has 1,800 emails, 1,800 top secret emails, and each one is responsible or carries the penalty of 10 years and a $100,000 fine, and she's got 18 of them.
1,800.
I'm sorry, 1,800 of them. 18 would be bad enough. But 1,800 of them, and she's not in jail or in handcuffs or in an orange jumpsuit or being waterboarded or something right now, we got a problem, and she is going to be the president.
Yeah,
There's
well,
not going to be any
just
real
I think I
compromise.
speak for many people when we say we don't want to envision Hillary Clinton in any situation where water is being poured over her. Yeah, gross.
She'd melt probably, just
Yeah,
like the Wizard of Oz.
yeah. So
You know,
and that's the other
I
thing because
wasn't talking about the Hillary wet T-shirt
who
contest.
thank
No,
God no.
no, no,
And
no.
that's the other thing is that it's not just her because now there's special attention being paid to her aide Huma Weiner Abedina about her protected status as a special employee of the State Department and the scrutiny that she'll face about her special payments and contract slash status. It's going to get dirty, that's the whole mo behind that Clinton Foundation and those folks is that it may not be illegal right now, and we're going to do it. Some people prefer to stop short of the gray area. They host orgies up in that stuff.
I Man, if we were to get into the perversion and the sickness that's in there, I mean, with all of them, I mean, just the Clinton death list. I mean, go ahead and
Yeah.
Google search that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I mean that's got some ties to guns, but let's get out of the Clintons' business. They were poor and broke when they left the White House.
That's right. I don't know.
I almost felt like
So,
sending a gift basket.
I'd like to kind of discuss, I think, a rather urgent need in the community. Some clarification and some information on lubricants. And there's a lot of lubricants out there, and we've discussed something like Fire Clean that was turned out to be Crisco. Well, now one of the I guess battle tested in Afghanistan, and it's sworn by, and it's $16.99 for a 6-ounce bottle. It's Frog Lube has turned out to be coconut oil with aromatics added to it.
Yeah, like I said, you're going to get what you pay for, and if you pay anything more than what it costs to have a good bottle of CLP or Break Free, chances are you're either trying to support a veteran-owned business or you're getting taken.
And I would dare say it's along the latter. So we're seeing that these specialty lubricants that really don't have any kind of benefit other than their grease.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing: if you're going to use a lubricant, most likely it's going to be on a semi-automatic rifle, trying to make sure that the bolt operates as it should. Not too many people have to lubricate bolt-action rifles. Maybe a little bit, over time. But here's the thing.
Yeah, you don't run it necessarily wet.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Anybody that's ever had an M4 or AR series rifle for a long time knows that you can be a little bit liberal with the application of the lubricant, but the more lubricant that you put on there, the more carbon is going to build up as that rifle's fired, and that stuff's just going to turn to gunk. It's not going to do anything to help you clean it. You're going to have to break that stuff down. You're going to have to break down that weapon system, and you're going to go have to take it through a solvent tank. And for that matter, you may as well just break it down to its component pieces and lay it out on a piece of cardboard or some brown packing paper and just spray the shit out of it with some brake cleaner. I mean that's realistically what you're going to do, because what does brake cleaner do? Brake cleaner loosens up metal filings from your brakes, carbon dust, all ceramic dust, all that stuff. It's the same premise.
Right. And I think there's the rise of these specialty lubricants that are like, you can buy a gallon of coconut oil for like $7.99 at the,
I hear it's also good for stretch marks.
I don't know. I let my stretch marks go naturally.
Yeah.
And but you buy a gallon, that's $7.99, $14.99, whatever. You're looking at a 6-ounce bottle that comes with a fancy tactical label on it for $16.99, and it doesn't smell like coconut oil. It smells, I guess like peppermint or something. And
Good question.
I
I don't know.
I think that kind of comes along with the rise of the AR culture being not necessarily shooter oriented, but more like conspicuous consumption.
Well, and
And
like I said, it's quite often that a new product hits the market. There's there was the old axiom of build the better mousetrap, right? If you find a need for a product and you develop it and you get it to market, your product will either stand on its merits, or it won't. Or if you happen to have some good PR, maybe you get some sales out of it. But here's the thing, people come to me and they say, hey, should I use WD-40 to lubricate my guns? And I just tell them, you know what? Hey, WD-40 is not a lubricant. WD-40 is for water displacement. That's what the WD means. It's a water inhibitor. Think about it this way.
I think they like the WD-40 because it's very simple to use.
Yeah, but here's the problem. That's not the that's not the designed or intended use of that. Is not to lubricate. It's to remove water. Put it this way: if you have a squeaky door in your house, where the hinges kind of creak a little bit, go ahead and spray some WD-40 in that. It'll be quiet for about a week, and then that squeak will come back because that WD-40 is not lubricating. That WD-40 is trying to infiltrate the crevices and trying to dislodge water. So yeah, okay, if you want to use it, go ahead. You'll probably have more success using WD-40 on your fish bait to go fishing with.
And that's cheating.
It is cheating
Really
and maybe illegal in your locality.
It may be, but so go ahead and just spray that on your reel.
Yeah.
Go ahead and spray that all over your reel.
Yeah. So like what we said, you can't go wrong with CLP. You can't go wrong with
You like
Ballistol.
CLP personally? I like Ballistol for cleaning. I like gear oil, dude. I mean, I got some Quaker State green bottle gear oil. I think I don't know, it's 80 weight or 90 weight or something like that. And it's thicker than snot, and it was cheap. I mean, it was like $6.99 for
Yeah.
a quart of this stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, but that's all. That's all.
And I'll never use all of it. I could bathe everything in it for like 3 months straight.
Well, here's the thing. Anything that's whether it's Liberal Tears or Frog Lube or whatever else, that's coming with a price just for the name. People want to say, oh yeah, I lubricate all my rifles with Liberal Tears and whatever. Okay, great. So you spend a shit ton of money for a product that may or may not work. Whatever. Free country.
Like, we should make like booger hook grease.
Yeah, booger hoop glue, guaranteed to let them fly. So anything. When it comes down to it, you can't go wrong with brake cleaner. You
Well,
can't.
and let's be very, very careful with the brake cleaner. We want to use non-chlorinated brake cleaner. It'll say it on the can. If you use chlorinated brake cleaner, you will take all the blue off of your gun.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going on the outside of the barrel, yeah, okay. But I'm
Yeah.
talking about internal components because realistically, when it comes down to corrosion prevention or rust prevention, I'm stay away from the Teflon rags and things like that. I've seen more weapons develop surface rust after those Teflon, coated rags are used to rub up and down the barrel. A light coating of any kind of, specific for weapons oil, cleaning oil will do the job.
But it doesn't even have to be specific for weapons. It could be machine oil.
Yeah, like I said, it could be. I'm saying for anybody that just happens to go into a firearm store or maybe even a Walmart and doesn't know anything about cleaning stuff, you can look on any rack at Walmart and you'll see the hops number 9. That's always there. It'll be right next to the synthetic deer urine, if I'm not mistaken. Some of which is illegal.
Don't mix them two up.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to mix those two up. But read your manual. Do some searches on YouTube to find a video of a guy breaking down and performing a cleaning on his weapon if you have one of the same. Just make sure that you maintain your weapons properly, and your weapons will take care of you. It's almost like I've been told that for the last 20 years.
As if it was training.
Yeah. So Michael, I wanted to get out there. I got the diploma in the mail, and it said that I made the dean's list.
Congratulations, and I mean that. Congratulations, that's a really big step. You are a graduate.
So the funny thing is that when I was growing up and where you were growing up, I thought if you were on the dean's list, you did something bad.
Yeah, that's kind of the way. So there was no detention involved in it.
Yeah, thankfully not. So the good news is that it's actually written on the diploma, and in addition to having the GPA, that's good. I'm starting to get all the nice college mailers. Hey, come spend your money at our university.
Now you're on the alumni list.
Yeah, so I'm starting to look at other schools, but there's damn few of them that offer firearms technology classes.
Well, like ITT Tech, I think.
No, actually,
what's that school that's out of? It's like Grass Valley College.
No. There is actually one. It's called Sonoran Desert Institute, and it's out of the Phoenix area. I am actually going to go ahead and start looking into that. They actually tried to call me back, but for whatever reason, their phone service doesn't allow them to take incoming calls, and I actually received one of their calls while I was at work. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look into seeing what they offer. I know
they don't take incoming calls.
Yeah, well, they take a lot of money. That's for sure.
University of Bud's garage, dude.
Yeah. So Michael, we got to hit some safety here.
All right. First rule of firearm safety is every firearm is loaded until you visually and physically inspect and verify that it is not loaded. Rule number 2 is keep the firearm pointed in a safe direction at all times. Don't cover anything you don't want to destroy. Rule number 3, know what your target is. Know what is beyond your target at all times. And the most important rule is the 4th rule. Keep the booger hook off the bank switch until you are ready to discharge the weapon. Nothing goes off by itself. Another story about that this week. The gun just went off. They neglected to mention that he had his finger on the trigger and he was pulling it.
Yeah, because the gun sounds a lot more menacing when it just goes off by itself.
That's right. So don't contribute to the problem. Be a good guy.
Yeah. So we gotta drop a question to our listeners out there in chat. We gotta find out if there's a desire to have PrimerTime swag.
All right. If you want, we'll make PrimerTime like Uzis.
Yeah, not Uzis. No. I'm talking like maybe T-shirts and stuff like Uzis.
Are you kidding me? I wouldn't have one of those big heavy files of his red.
The audio wasn't great, so I was thinking you could have said either PrimerTime jacuzzis or Uzis, and since this is PrimerTime, I thought you said Uzis.
No, I say I was talking beer koozies.
Yeah.
Them things are your team.
Yeah, well,
yeah, I don't know. All right. So there it goes.
There you go. I dropped it in chat for our listeners out there. It's another proof that we're live.
So and we're not doing any Uzis. We're not having any PrimerTime Desert Eagles. We're not having a PrimerTime Google Ace or none of that kind of crap. No Savor PrimerTime.
Yeah. No, it'll be a tasteful design and maybe a little booger hook action on the back. I don't know.
That might be kind of fun.
Yeah.
So anything you're looking at purchasing besides 22 long rifle ammo?
Right now, I do have to finish up the 223 Wild build. I am missing the charging handle. That's pretty important. But the gas block, the gas tube, the sights, and the rail.
A bunch of important parts to make that rifle run.
Yep, definitely.
I think I'm looking for holsters and magazines. Really, kind of what I'm looking for right now.
Cool. Well, thanks to our listeners in chat, Michael. It was great to hear you again.
Nick, it was wonderful to speak to you. I'd like to thank Jules. UC White on TV. What? It's the only place you get this kind of crowd. Everybody, thanks for listening. Hey, thanks to Real Liberty Media at WorldStreet.org. Jules, you rock. Thanks a lot. Everybody, stick around. Good stuff coming up.